And we know that the birth of Jesus would be bringing peace on earth and goodwill toward men, but it would be bringing a very different kind of peace, a very different kind of peace. In fact, Jesus did not come to bring political stability. He didn't come with a mission to bring a Jewish caliphate, right? He didn't come to set up an earthly kingdom for Israel. Jesus came for a very different reason.
This is a Truth Transforms Truth Nugget, a daily dose of truth for your daily transformation. Welcome back to another Truth Nugget. We're continuing our celebration of the Incarnation of Christ as we work our way through a sermon in Luke chapter 2, covering verses 1 to 7, and that sermon is entitled The Birth of Our Savior. Yesterday we looked at the background situation during that event, and we're going to continue in that sermon today in part 2. I'll have a whole playlist to all the Christmas Truth Nuggets linked below so you can catch up on all of the sermons, quite a few so far now in Luke chapter 2. But let's continue with this sermon, The Birth of Our Savior.
Isn't it interesting, the contrast that we see here, where he is known as the Savior of the world, yet we see a little weak baby born in a manger that is the true Savior of the world and truly worthy of worship. Of course, this emperor wanted worship, as all emperors did, and that's why Christians often were beheaded, because they would not say Caesar is Lord. But not only would not say Caesar is Lord, but they replaced that. And instead of saying Caesar is Lord, they said Jesus is Lord. Blasphemy, right? Blasphemy in the Roman Empire. So that's the background. That's what we see here. Well, so a decree is sent out. This is the first registration, and the decree goes out from Caesar Augustus. And we move on, and we see that there's a response to the decree then. There's a great journey that takes place. We look at that in verses 3 to 5. And all went to be registered, each to his own town. So everyone had to go. They had to respond. They had to go to their own hometown. No matter what was doing, they had to drop it and go get registered. There likely was a deadline, I would imagine, and they had to go and be registered. And this was likely for tax purposes, but it could have been for enlisting in the military as well. So then we see that Joseph went up from Galilee. He went up because it's higher in elevation. He actually went south. But he went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David. So we see where he went. We see why he's going, because he's of the lineage of David, and he's going to Bethlehem. And we also see then that he brought Mary with him. He brought his pregnant wife with him. Now Luke describes her as his betrothed, but we know that they're married at this point because Matthew clearly states that they're married. The angel appeared to Joseph, and the angel said to Joseph, "Don't be afraid to take her as your wife, because she's going to have a child. This child is going to be named Jesus. You're going to name him Jesus. He's going to be the Savior of the world. He's going to come to save the people from their sins. So take her as your wife." And then it says he did. He took her as his wife and knew her not until the child was born. So they're married, and many people believe that the reason why Luke said betrothed right here, obviously there was a different marital system at that time, but many people believe that the main reason is because the marriage had not been consummated. So they were married, but obviously he knew her not. It had not been consummated, and that's why Luke refers to her in this way. But the point being, they're married. And so they're married, and the husband would generally go for the family. You wouldn't have to take your wife and your whole family, certainly not your pregnant wife, on that 90-mile journey to Bethlehem. So then we can look at, well, then why does he take her? Well, there are a few theories out there, but let's use some common sense. His wife is pregnant. She's going to have a son. He wants to be around when she has that baby. His wife is pregnant. She's going to have the Son of God, the Messiah, the long-awaited Messiah. You think he's going to say, you know what, I'll go and get us registered, and you let me know if you have the Son of God, the long-awaited Messiah, who's been prophesied throughout the whole Old Testament. You let me know if you have him, well, I'm gone. And no, I think he wanted to be around for that. Also, there was a great scandal, right? A great scandal because she was found to be pregnant out of wedlock. The entire town would have known this. The entire town would have been talking about this. She wouldn't be able to go anywhere without this sense of shame. So I imagine that he wanted to get her out of that situation, and she was glad to get out of that situation. So Joseph goes off and he takes Mary with him, and they go to Bethlehem. Well, then we see that the birth of God takes place while they're there. In fact, in verses 6 to 7, we see a birth by God's decree. And here we get to the birth of Jesus, the birth of the Savior, the long-awaited birth that fulfilled prophecies from long ago. So let's look at verses 6 to 7. And while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. So they made it to Bethlehem, and Luke tells us that the time came for her to give birth. Jesus came to this earth at the perfect time in history. God planned exactly when Jesus would come to this earth. There was peace in the Roman Empire right now. It was a very different kind of peace, of course, than what Jesus would be bringing. This was called the Pax Romana, or the peace of Rome. This was a peace by force. This was a peace that occurred by military victory. This was a peace by conquest. And we know that the birth of Jesus would be bringing peace on earth and goodwill toward men, but it would be bringing a very different kind of peace. A very different kind of peace. In fact, Jesus did not come to bring political stability. He didn't come with a mission to bring a Jewish caliphate, right? He didn't come to set up an earthly kingdom for Israel. Jesus came for a very different reason. He didn't come to be a political savior. Jesus came to save his people from their sins. So the peace that Christ would bring is a peace that can reconcile mankind with God. Jesus brings a peace that is not of this world. He brings a peace that is beyond comprehension. The peace of Christ is the divine peace. It is an eternal peace. It is a peace that cannot be broken by war or ruined by famine. The peace that Christ brought to this world and to all who put their trust in him is an eternal peace with an eternal Creator.
Well, it's an excellent reminder, the fact that Jesus came to save his people from their sins. I hope you know that peace, the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. I hope you know the peace of being reconciled with God through Christ. And we're going to be continuing this again tomorrow as we continue this sermon. Again, if you're new here, these are every day, Monday through Friday. All the Christmas Truth Nuggets are linked below in the description and the pinned comment. You can take a look at those. Be sure to hit the like button. That definitely helps to reach more people. God bless you, and I will see you in tomorrow's Truth Nugget.
Truth Nuggets are a ministry of preaching for God's glory. To find out more about other resources available and ways that you can support the ministry, be sure to visit preachingforgodsglory.org.